First of all, I'm trying a new setup. Please understand if some things are a little weird, if my head gets cut off, or any other issues with trying a new area to film in. Second, I want to talk about Robinson Cano, because don't you know it, he's taken steroids. This news is a couple days old at this point, but the fact that this is the first time really either you or I, Joe, can talk about this, and Cano was one of our favorite players on the Yankees, still is a nice guy, although now tainted with the knowledge of steroids. For John Heyman, Cano was suspended for a substance known as furosemide that is prohibited by the Joint Drug Agreement, among other masking agents. According to other sources, including Robinson Cano himself, Cano was using the substance after being given it by a licensed doctor in the Dominican Republic to treat a medical ailment, which other sources have said involves high blood pressure, and that this was also the only positive test he's had. Since the failed test, he's had a negative test as well. So, two things I can glean from this. One, Cano is not going to be that slugging Hall of Fame second baseman that we all thought he was going to be. With how we see Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Mark McGwire all treated by the Hall of Fame voters at the moment, it's clear that if Cano will ever get into the Hall of Fame, it won't be on the ballot. But second, and this is what I want to talk about today, there seems to be a rather large problem between Major League Baseball players and steroids, specifically relating to the Dominican Republic and other Caribbean countries. In the last several years, most of these recent tests coming back positive have been from players from the Dominican. You can use Robinson Cano as an example. You can use Starling Marte as an example. Edison Volquez. You can even use the biogenesis scandal. With the exception of Ryan Braun, every player was of Dominican or Latin American descent. This, plus Cano's statement saying that this was prescribed by his doctor, tells me that doctors from the Dominican Republic, one, don't know what banned substances are that Major League Baseball players cannot take. And two, Latin American and Dominican players are not going to the league and saying, hey, I was prescribed X, Y, and Z. Is this legal to take for the season? I can't say it's the league not making these policies clear, because after the big congressional scandal with baseball in the early 2000s, Major League Baseball has really been pushing and educating players towards knowing what steroids are legal and not. As an example, the masking agent in Robinson Cano's case apparently is not something that, taking it alone, Major League Baseball can suspend it for you. They need enough supporting evidence to say, hey, you were intentionally using this to get better. And yet Cano still took the suspension and didn't challenge it, which means that the league probably had enough on him to say, hey, you were taking these intentionally. Which may undermine what I earlier said about Cano and taking them for high blood pressure, but again, it's his word against the league's word. We don't know which is true, so I'm saying both sides of the argument until we get a definitive, if at all. And that's where I'm going to leave today's episode. Joe, what do you think about Cano? Like him still? Don't like him? I'll see you next week.